Hello, my name is Noel Green, and welcome to the Space Industry Connoisseur. And today we have a special guest here, Ron Rosano from the beautiful state of California, Virgin Galactic astronaut, a NASA space ambassador, and also an educator in the sciences of space. I'm so glad to have you. Welcome on to the show.
Thanks, Noel. Appreciate you bringing me on and glad to be here.
hmm So I mentioned that in the introduction that you were a Virgin Galactic astronaut. The first question I wanted to ask you is, as someone who has experienced a suborbital flight, how do you think suborbital flights can pique the interest of people for space and the emerging industry?
Well, thanks. Yeah, suborbital flights, it's good to understand the distinction. They're short. Um, we're in space for 3 minutes, weightless for 3 or 4 minutes. We're not in orbit like NASA astronauts, and we're not career astronauts. But it opens up the opportunities to go to space to many, many, many more people. In all of history, up until these suborbital flights started in 2018, there were maybe 600 people that had gone to space in 60 years. And in the 6 years or so since then, 7 years, Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin have flown 95 different people in space. So it's the opportunity for people from all over the world to see the Earth from space, experience a ride on a rocket, float weightless above the planet. And it's an extraordinary change in perspective when you see the Earth like that, floating in this empty black vastness of space. It gives you a change in the way you think about things and a realization that, hey, we're Earth is a spaceship itself, and we're on the spaceship together, and we need to work better together to take care of the spaceship.
So in this experience that you've had, going up, having the opportunity to do a suborbital space flight and see a different perspective of the planet. So how did this experience? Do you think that this experience, the experience that you had with the preparation for the flight, did this experience help you get the feel of what it's like to actually be an astronaut? I know it's not actually, you know, you're not, like you said, we're space tourists and like we're not professional astronauts, but we're just, you're basically just going through and doing the going through the experience. So do you think that going through the experience of actually preparing for the flight, do you think the preparation gave you that feel of being an actual astronaut?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about, gee, are people that are going these suborbital flights actually astronauts? Yeah, we don't operate the spaceship, uh, and that's actually not unprecedented. There's hundreds of mission specialists, payload specialists that flew on space shuttle that rode in the mid deck and operated their experiments and equipment in orbit and came back down. They weren't actually operating or flying the spaceship at all. When you look at, I looked at, Britannica for
Mm-hmm.
example. And online they say, an astronaut is someone that flies into space. So I'm, you know, fine with being, I'm called an astronaut. I think it's, we rode a rockets, we're weightless in space in a vacuum where if
Mm-hmm.
there was a problem with the spacecraft, we die. So, it is a very much an astronaut experience. So,
Mm-hmm.
although, yeah, I would never claim or that, we've done, any kind of a role like NASA astronauts, or astronauts from any agency, European Space Agency, Japanese Space Agency, from Russia. That's a highly trained thing. But we see the Earth and experience the Earth in a similar way. And if you'd like to enable sharing, I could share. Here's a picture. So, here's a view from a video camera that's mounted at the window of the Virgin Galactic spaceship Unity, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just an extraordinary sight. And I was really kind of transfixed by this blue line that you
Mm-hmm.
see between the ground and the vacuum of space. That's our atmosphere. It's our sky. It's shockingly thin, and everything alive on Earth exists in this blue line, in this narrow layer that wraps around the Earth. We share one volume of air on this planet, and to see Earth like that floating through empty space is a very it's a very transformative experience. It changes the way you think about life and the way you think about other people. At least for me and for most people that fly too.
There is something very unique about the way Virgin actually does their mission architecture. So usually, when people think of going up to space and rockets, they think of the vertical takeoff, and you
Right.
go straight up. But with Virgin Galactic, it doesn't do it that way. So it takes you on a mothership, and then the mothership launches, and then the actual spaceship, the mothership reaches a certain level, like a certain height, certain feet, and then the rocket, the spaceship, departs from there, and then it shoots up. Can you tell us a little bit about the mission architecture of how Virgin Galactic sends people to space, and how do you think that the vertical takeoff can actually be a factor in being able to reuse the systems to repeatedly send people back up into space in a quicker or faster time frame?
Yeah, sure. The Virgin Galactic system is different from your typical rocket that launches from the ground. Blue Origin uses that system. It's a great system. It's a very dynamic rocket engine. It's more higher pressures, more parts. Use the Virgin Galactic rocket engine is a hybrid rocket. It's a much simpler rocket, and the spaceship is air launched, so it's carried up underneath a carrier plane called White Knight 2, and the White Knight Eve carrier plane brings the spaceship up to about 44,000 feet and then releases it. So by doing that, you're already going 400 miles an hour, and you're above you're above the thickest part of the atmosphere. So you can actually fly to space with a much smaller rocket, and it's less complicated. This system is not has been around. Has been there's been similar configurations in the 60s. There were 199 flights of the X-15. Research plane, test plane. It flew into space several times. Also air launched like this. So it's an air launched rocket, technically an air launched rocket powered glider. So the spaceship is carried up, it's released, fires a rocket, turns and points up towards space, and the rocket cuts off at about 150,000 feet, and it's going about 2,200 miles an hour. And it just coasts up to the highest point, the apogee, exactly the way what happens when you throw a ball or anything else in the air. It's going fast when it leaves your hand. Gravity's pulling it down the whole time, and it reaches a high point and comes back down. And the spaceship does the same thing, except it does a couple of in-string configurations. They put windows on top of the spaceship, and after it finishes firing, the spaceship turns upside down. So the windows at the top of the spaceship give you the view of looking straight down
Mm-hmm.
at the Earth, or you can look out the side windows, like in the image I shared, towards the limb of the Earth, the edge of the Earth, and it stays in that configuration until it reaches apogee, and then after it starts coming back down, it pitches over another 180 degrees, so it comes back into the atmosphere belly first, so that it presents the largest area of the atmosphere of the ship into the atmosphere, so it'll be slowed down by the air. And then after it gets lower to, like, 30,000 feet or so,
Mm-hmm.
it'll become a glider. So it actually circles the airfield and lands on the same runway we took off from. Um, the whole time from release, rocket fire, float in space, glide to a landing is about 16 minutes. So it's very short. But still,
Mm-hmm.
seeing the Earth like that, and it's a dream come true for me, and for most of the people that have flown, is to travel in space like that. So I'm excited for more people to be doing it.
Oh man, for sure. I've seen it, and I knew something. It was something that I wanted to do. Of course, it is a bit pricey. I actually talked with Craig, with Craig a little bit about the prices, and getting the prices down. But it's a very cool thing. And hopefully with that new factory that they're building in Arizona, to get the production ramped up, and keep on testing to get the system a perfect. I hope it actually becomes a thing, to have the experience that you had. And speaking of experience, so when you went to actually go get the flight, and pay for the flight and everything, like, was it just did you just get the flight, or was there a little bit more to it? So was there, like,
Mm.
did you get, like, to stay at a, like, hotel or something? Like, did you get, like, special
Yeah.
access somewhere? Like, does it come with more, or is it just the flight? I was just curious.
Yeah, the flight experience itself, and the flight, the days of and the training around the flight. Yeah, there's a lot more that they do. Virgin Galactic takes a lot of. They may go through a lot of efforts to make things very special. So, for instance, we went. I bought the ticket in 2010, and flew in 2023. Um, and the actual, acquiring the ticket is very simple. You just, like, sign the contract and send them the funds. So they're not selling tickets right now, although once they get through, they have about 600 people signed up ready to fly. Once they get through that, and with the new spaceships that are they should be flying by the end of next year. By 2027, I
Hmm.
think we'll start seeing more ticket sales. And the idea is that, yeah, of course, they're very expensive now, but like in commercial airlines, when they first started, everyone expects that price to go down over time. Um, so the training, the arriving at spaceport is a really special thing. We do 3 days of training before the flight date. We visit the spaceport. We get to know the spaceship. They have, some uh, very exciting reveals that happen. Seeing the spaceship. There's an astronaut logbook that you sign. They take care of your food and training. They bring I bring guests and relatives. I had my sister, my kids. Um, Several friends come to the flight. They came the day before, and
Hmm.
we had a lunch at spaceport, and they could see the spaceship and, like, look at the simulator, and actually have some hands-on time with it, with everything there before we flew. So they were. It's really a great experience. One thing I didn't expect, though, that happened was that I had dinner for the crew every night with different people from Galactic.
Hmm.
Um, and the night before we flew, a lot of the communications director uh, picks up her phone and says, "Oh, Ron, there's someone who wants to talk to you," and it was Richard Branson, um, wishing us, and he talked to each of the three of us the night before he flew and wished us good luck, and we thanked him for his vision in making this happen. So there's some nice things like that for sure.
Oh man, that sounds awesome. Um, I would love to meet Richard and and talk a little bit about his venture into this. It's definitely well, in my opinion, I think it is it has definitely made a dent into the private space travel sector for sure. With him and Burt Rutan, creating the design for the spaceship. Just the vision of it all.
Yeah.
Is quite
What
remarkable.
Jeff Bezos is doing with Blue Origin, is really, the purpose really is, for the benefit of Earth, and SpaceX. So, Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin are flying these suborbital flights, and they'll continue for a while. And but boy, the SpaceX Starship is an extraordinary rocket, and if that's successful, like SpaceX is planning for it to be, it could be a complete game changer. There's not a lot of awareness about it now, but
Hmm.
I think 5 to 10 years from now could be a very different landscape with spaceflight, and it's just a very exciting time. So it's great that you're following it. I encourage you to keep following it, keep in touch with these people. Anybody, if anyone's interested in like how this works or who's flying or want to learn more, dig in with those companies that are making these things happen. And if you're passionate about it, follow that passion. You never know where it would lead. I didn't expect to go so soon on this flight, but part of it was me following my passion of talking to students about space, and that in some ways led to me flying on that flight. So it was just an kind of unexpected, but a little bit of making your own luck and fate looking out for you. So Noel, I'm sure you'll have the chance to fly in space at some point when you get older, and probably at an age younger than I was when I flew, which was 63. So stay on that, and we'll see you up there, I'm sure.
For sure, no, age, age is there's a saying, age is nothing but a number. You just if you want to do it and you're
Yep,
passionate about it, hey, go for it. Uh,
yep, absolutely.
hmm And speaking of passion, I know you do a little bit of work as an educator and educating the youth about space in general. So, as as an educator, what are some, or if there are any, what are some of the challenges of teaching people or educating people about about not only just space in general, but the uses of space, and even talking about the space tourist stuff. What are some of the challenges that you have came across in terms of teaching and educating the public about space and space travel?
Well, yeah, I've been an informal space educator, not don't have a teaching credential,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been doing classroom activities related to space astronomy for about 30 years in a few different programs. Um, so challenges, like a big one is classroom time. Teachers and school districts, especially in the U.S., have a lot of demands on what's in their curriculum and a lot of demands for testing and meeting things. So it's not always easy for a teacher to carve out an hour to have a video call with me or someone else like that, because
Mm-hmm.
if they're going to find a place for that, then they're going to have to take something out of their curriculum that's valuable and is, worth having there in the first place. So um, that's one challenge. Really, this era of Google Hangouts and Zoom has been a great help because it makes it very easy, like we're doing now,
Mm-hmm.
to talk to students all over the world. So I've had calls with students in 20 different countries, and it's exciting to connect to students in Bangkok or Colombia. So that's one thing. It's important, I think. Really, messages for students are that yes, we're on this spaceship Earth together, and we don't think about it in that way.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually all in space right now, but we don't think about it that way. We don't realize that we're under this beautiful sky that provides all our air and provides life for us. But once you go
Mm-hmm.
beyond that sky, it's empty and it's a vacuum. And in the short term, you don't really need to have a sense of it. You need sleep, water, food, shelter. But in the long term, humans need to realize and think and act like we're on this spaceship, like we're crew on this spaceship, and take care of it because it's our only ride. And that's one of my messages to students is like, yeah, think about it think about us in global terms and think of, Earth as a spaceship. And also for students to know, it's important for them to know that if they're interested in space, they can have careers in any number of fields. Yes, they need engineers and pilots, but they need graphic artists and that do things like design the mission patch, like the one we have for our flight. These are creative people that design that. There's photographers, videographers. There's people that run the network that are great at computing and running computing networks. There are people that are building the spaceship that like working with their hands, like building things with their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those have done like they finished high school and done a 2-year trade degree to learn how to build things, to learn how to like learn about electrical or mechanical kinds of things. And that's a different aptitude than an engineering degree or something like that. So we're going to have a space hotel. There's 2 companies building space stations right now, maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
Axiom and Vast. Vast is going to launch a commercial space station next year. At some point we'll have a space hotel, and I think if all the students out there, it's like, please help more people build those so more people can go to space. People at space hotels are going to need food and all those kinds of things. So maybe there's somebody who loves the hospitality industry that's going to go work on the space hotel that takes care of the people that come to visit there. So it's a really exciting time, and it's rewarding for me to share those ideas with students, and hopefully in at least a few students have the light bulb go off and say, wow, maybe I could do that.
Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, I always, when I started this channel, I had, before, the reason why I started it was because I I I was interested in the space industry, and I didn't have a STEM degree. I had a communications degree, and I thought that, man, I have a communications degree, but I'm interested in space. Like, how do I jump in and get into it? And I said, hey, I can use my knowledge of using equipment and communicate, and using my communications degree to actually bring forth awareness about the space industry. And so, like you're saying, you don't really, if you're passionate about it, it's not just about, having the STEM degree. If you, if you're in marketing, or like you said, you're in hospitality, there are places that you can go. But if not, I know the job market is competitive, but if you really want to do it, like, there are organizations that you can join. So I think this is, like you said, a very good time to really get into space and things of that nature. So I'm very enthusiastic. So Ron, are there any last remarks, or are is there any way that the public or the people can reach you to learn a little bit more about your education and read into a little bit more about your story?
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks. And yeah, I'll mention a couple things. Communications is a great example. Alana Crane, the Virgin Galactic Communications Director, she's got a very important job. She's there at all the launches. She manages, the communications that happens for Virgin Galactic. Interesting story. There was a young woman, Jamila Gilbert, who went to college in New Mexico. She's from New Mexico. She met Alana. Alana hired Jamila to be help with the communications for the company. And then, like a year and a half later, Galactic was picking people to fly to space, and they chose Jamila because she had these special qualities, because she was good at communicating, because she was a native New Mexican and she could relate to people. So she got to fly to space just as part of her job in communications. Those kinds of things can happen. There's a lot of scientists that have flown on Galactic and on Blue Origin that designed science experiments that are carried out in these 3 minutes of weightlessness. It's a very unique flight profile that enables science to be done in ways that you can't do otherwise. So maybe students are scientists and they're designing an experiment that gets carried out in this environment of suborbital flight, and they need somebody to go to fly with the experiment. So that's another way to go to space. So there's many openings and ways for this to happen. So I think it's really a matter of pursuing them and looking for them as you work through options in life. Read the job listings for favorite companies for Virgin Galactic or Blue Origin or other space companies. Vast, they might be looking for a communications person right now. Um, so yeah, and if anyone wants to connect, there's a link to reach me via email at the NASA Solar System Ambassadors website. If you look up my name, and Solar System Ambassadors, you could find that. Noel, I think you're going to go ahead and put that in the content here connected to the video, and yeah. All the videos from my flight are on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and search for my name, you can see flight. There's a space flight experience highlight video that Virgin Galactic made. You can see the systems in the plane and the spaceship, and other videos of inside the cabin, outside the cabin, if you want to dig in a little deeper. So thank you so much.
No problem. It was great. It was great having you, and once again, to all my listeners and subscribers listening, if you're interested in space and you really want to get into it, go on ahead and get your get your hands dirty. There are opportunities out there. You just gotta look for it. And hey, maybe if the doors are closing, you can always do what I'm doing, create a YouTube channel, or a TikTok or Instagram or X or whatever, and just talk about it. So it's very encouraging, and I hope we get more people engaged into the space industry. Once again, Ron, thank you so much for coming. And if you guys like the video, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again. See you next time.
Thanks, Noel.
Right.